The BBC News at 10 o'clock with Reeta Chakrabarti.
Tonight at 10, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson is charged with rape and other historical sexual offences and resigns as leader of the Democratic Unionist Party. The news causes shockwaves in Belfast and Westminster. Sir Geoffrey says he will strenuously contest the charges. Also tonight, an uneasy calm in Jerusalem over Easter and Ramadan, while conditions remain desperate in Gaza. From next month, people on the lowest incomes will no longer have to pay the £90 it takes to clear their debts. From Welsh rugby to the US Super Bowl winners, Louis Rees-Zammit signs for the Kansas City Chiefs. And how mammals are adapting to the changing world and climate around them. Good evening. There's been widespread shock after the news that the leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, has resigned after being charged with rape and other historical sexual offences. He was arrested yesterday along with a 57-year-old woman who has been charged with aiding and abetting in connection with the alleged offences. They will appear in court next month. Sir Geoffrey, who is Northern Ireland's longest-serving MP at Westminster, says he will strenuously contest the charges. The party's interim leader, Gavin Robinson, said it has been a devastating revelation. Here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, one of the biggest figures in Northern Ireland politics of his generation, the linchpin of a vital breakthrough just 2 months ago, which led to the return of devolved government at Stormont.
This agreement is something we have worked hard to deliver for the people of Northern Ireland.
In late January, the pride of a breakthrough, Sir Geoffrey commanding the stage, his power and influence obvious. But at 6 o'clock yesterday morning, he was arrested. By lunchtime today, a statement from his party. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson had told his party chairman that he had been charged with allegations of a historical nature, rape and other sexual offences, and said he was stepping down as leader of the Democratic Unionist Party with immediate effect. The man on the left here, Gavin Robinson, is the new interim leader. He was told what had happened in the middle of the night.
I think it's been a devastating revelation and has caused tremendous shock, not just for myself personally or my colleagues within the DUP, but for the community right across Northern Ireland. It came as a great shock.
This is a nightmare for the DUP. It's a big test for the new power-sharing government, isn't it?
Well, I think the power-sharing government not only has been recognised positively in the last number of weeks since its restoration, I think you can see and hear over the last number of days and weeks the importance that the people of Northern Ireland place upon it, the importance that we place upon it. That doesn't change.
Geoffrey Donaldson became DUP leader 3 years ago. The national anthem, the Union flag. Sir Geoffrey has spent his adult life campaigning for Northern Ireland's place in the UK. Here he was in the 1980s.
And now what do you do in return for that? You throw me out of the forum to which I was elected.
And here he was in the 1990s.
I've got the framework document here.
He opposed the Good Friday Peace Agreement signed 26 years ago. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, a pivotal figure in Northern Ireland's recent past, and now another pivotal moment, with the capacity to mould its future too.
Well, we'll be speaking to Chris in just a moment, but first to our Ireland correspondent Sarah Girvan, who's outside Stormont. And Sarah, this really has been a bombshell in Northern Ireland.
Reeta, it absolutely has. I mean, Northern Ireland has never had to seek its political ups and downs. But what has happened today has sent shockwaves across this place. It has shocked people here and it has shocked politicians. And it is important to remember that the devolved government here at Stormont has only been up and running now for a matter of months after a 2-year hiatus. It was the DUP that collapsed the institutions, and so there is an understandable nervousness about how what happened today might impact this place. Now, we have heard from the First Minister of Northern Ireland, Sinn Féin's Michelle O'Neill. She said that the Northern Ireland Executive must continue to work for the whole community, and perhaps in a note of reassurance, we heard from the interim leader of the DUP, Gavin Robinson. He says his party's focus is now making Northern Ireland work and making devolution work for the people of Northern Ireland. What has happened here today has caused a political earthquake. There's simply no doubt about that. And it does seem like Northern Ireland will be dealing with the aftershocks from that earthquake for quite some time to come.
Sarah, thank you. Chris, a very similar reaction in Westminster.
Yeah, it's really worth emphasising the profound shock amongst everyone that I speak to in Northern Ireland and at Westminster. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson was the central figure in the endless back and forth that eventually led to that moment just a couple of months ago. You and I were there reporting on it, the restoration of power sharing devolved government. At that time, he was being showered with praise. He was being garlanded for what was seen as a brave act of statesmanship. And now this. Now, personalities, individuals, they always matter in politics, and perhaps particularly so in Northern Ireland, where things are rarely stronger than delicate, rarely more solid than fragile. Now, you hear the pleas tonight from Gavin Robinson and indeed from plenty of others that this must not be an agent of instability, what has happened in the last 24 hours or so. But by definition, it is exactly that, as the DUP contemplates its future with the general election just around the corner.
Chris, thank you very much as always. Chris Mason there, our political editor. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to send officials to Egypt and to Qatar in the coming days for a new round of talks on a possible ceasefire in Gaza. It comes a day after the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice, ordered Israel to allow the unimpeded flow of food aid into Gaza, where sections of the Palestinian population are said to be facing imminent starvation. In Jerusalem, there is an uneasy calm as Palestinians mark Easter and Ramadan. From there, our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, now reports.
In Jerusalem, where tension and worse are normal, there is always the consolation of religion. This Ramadan, many of those ending a day of prayer at the Aqsa Mosque were Palestinian Israelis, around a fifth of Israel's population. Israel, citing security, restricts access to Jerusalem for Palestinians from the occupied West Bank. Just down the road, Palestinian Christians were deep in their celebration of Easter, walking to the old city from the Garden of Gethsemane, where they believe Jesus prayed on the night before he was crucified. But in this city, sacred for Christians, Jews and Muslims, religion and politics always mix.
All the Palestinian people are suffering today. They're suffering from occupation, they're suffering from apartheid, they're suffering from genocide. And today what we are praying is to stop these disaster situation here in the land of peace, in the land of Palestine. And we pray that as Jesus went to the Golgotha, to the Calvary, walking with the cross, but after that there was the resurrection, so we are praying to have our own resurrection today and the resurrection of our land.
Religion and conflict pervade Jerusalem, and 6 months of war in Gaza have deepened every division.
This is the essence of Jerusalem: religion, faith, and the passion it can generate. But in this city, religion has been linked inextricably with power and with identity for centuries, for millennia, and in more recent times with the long conflict between Palestinians and Israelis.
Since October, reinforced and highly visible Israeli security has imposed an uneasy quiet on the occupied eastern side of Jerusalem. The Good Friday procession along Via Dolorosa, where Christians believe Jesus carried his cross, was smaller than usual, without foreign pilgrims who cancelled their trips because of the war. The people of Jerusalem of all faiths are locked in a crisis as bad as any since Israel's independence war in 1948. Religion offers certainty and answers, but in this holy city, prayers and peace plans have not put a dent in this immutable conflict. Jeremy Bone, BBC News, Jerusalem.
One of the Conservative Party's largest donors has been awarded a knighthood after being recommended by Rishi Sunak. Labour said the decision to give an honour to the billionaire Mohammed Mansour showed the Prime Minister didn't expect to be in office for much longer. The Conservative MP Tracy Crouch and the film director Christopher Nolan also received honours. Counter-terrorism police are investigating after a presenter for a London-based Iranian TV news channel was attacked outside his home in South London. Iran International, which has reported extensively on anti-government protests in Iran, said the victim was Pouria Zarati, one of its presenters. Police were called to an address in Wimbledon shortly before 3 o'clock this afternoon to reports that a man had been stabbed in the leg. He is now stable in hospital. People on the lowest incomes will be able to have their debts wiped out for free as rules change in April. Debt relief orders clear existing debt on everything from council tax to energy bills and rent. But Citizens Advice say that many people are unable to afford the £90 it costs to get one. Now that fee is about to be scrapped in England and Wales, as our cost of living correspondent Coletta Smith has been finding out.
A change is on the way to ease the pressure on those struggling the most.
Yes, I'm trying to encourage anybody who will listen, to be honest, that if they're in debt, that they can have help.
2 years ago, Jessie was in a bad way.
Yeah, £90 is a lot of money.
On her own with 4 children after a marriage breakdown, her debts spiralling.
I felt like I was only just about floating above the water anyway, and then when I realised how much debt I was in, that's when I started to feel like I was drowning, and it was quite scary, really.
So I'll take you through your debt relief application.
But at her local food bank, she met the team from Christians Against Poverty and began to get her life back on track. She was told she could apply for a debt relief order to clear all of her existing debts, but there was one problem.
To get the debt relief order, first of all, I had to pay a fee, which I couldn't afford because it was £90, which doesn't seem a lot to some people, but to me that's like 2 weeks worth of shopping. I was worried if somebody would...
Jessie was one of the lucky ones, given a bursary last year to pay the £90. But from the 6th of April, all applications will now be free, and Olu's application will be top of the pile. She lost her job in the pandemic and ended up using a credit card to try and pay off her bills.
Honestly, when I was told I had to pay £90, I felt like another stumbling block because I didn't have any money to pay for anything. So when I got that information that, yeah, you can get support with debt relief order, it was like a light switch in a dark place for me.
There are more changes coming in at the end of June as well.
The amount of debt that somebody can be in will be increased from £30,000 to £50,000. And if they own a car, it can be worth a little more, going from £2,000 to £4,000, and they're still able to apply for that debt relief order.
That's really, really welcome news, but it's not job done. For people who have debts over £50,000, they can't go into a debt relief order. They'll be facing bankruptcy, and that still has a £680 upfront fee, regardless of income levels. So that really needs to be looked at.
For Jessie, making sure her children have enough now isn't easy, but starting from a clean slate helps.
It's a life changer. It really is. No child should have to think about who's going to knock on the door. They should never have to live like that. So now they don't, and they could be kids again.
As more people face sliding into debt, this new escape route will be a lifeline for many. Coletta Smith, BBC News in Bridgnorth.
A crane has arrived in Baltimore to begin moving wreckage from the bridge after it collapsed when it was hit by a container ship 3 days ago. Access to the busy port has been blocked while the wreckage of the bridge remains there. Only 2 of the 8 workers who were working at the time were rescued. The bodies of 2 others were recovered and the remaining 4 are still missing, presumed dead. Lewis Gossett Jr., the first black man to win a supporting actor Oscar, has died at the age of 87.
Be proud of them wings. They're the only ones you're going to leave here with. Mayonnaise.
He took the Oscar for his role in the 1982 film An Officer and a Gentleman, and also won an Emmy in 1978 for his role in the TV miniseries Roots about slavery. His last role was in the 2023 musical remake of The Colour Purple. The former Wales rugby star Lewis Rees-Zammit has signed for the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. The 23-year-old stunned the world of rugby in January when he quit the sport on the eve of this year's Six Nations tournament to pursue a career in American football. Our sports correspondent Adam Wilde reports.
For Lewis Rees-Zammit, this was about taking a chance on a new sport. Now that sport is taking a chance on him. A giant leap into the unknown. Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions, is where he's landed.
Hi Chiefs Kingdom, Lewis Rees-Zammit here. Just signed, can't wait to go and see you all at Arrowhead.
Today, another big step closer to that NFL dream.
Kansas City Chiefs is really kind of the ideal team for him to be joining. And I suppose if he impresses there, then there's every reason to believe that he could actually play in games during the regular season as well.
Lewis Rees-Zammit for the try. Not so long ago, Rees-Zammit was one of rugby union's brightest stars, young, quick and crucially unpredictable. All the skills that brought the Welsh superstar to the attention of American football. He's impressed sufficiently at recent trials to now earn his place in the Chiefs training camp. There is, though, a distance still to run.
So 90-man squad, and then he'll go obviously to our OTAs, which is kind of like your educational piece, and you get to meet everybody in the team, and it's like classroom all the time. This is an opportunity for him to learn, and then you go away, you come back in training camp in late July. That is going to be the hardest thing that he's going to have to go through, because the hours, the time, the stress on your body, there is a lot that's coming for this young man. But if he has the mindset that it sounds like he does have, and that will to learn and be curious, then he will be all right.
Rees-Zammit sprints in the footsteps of the likes of Christian Wade.
And look at Wade go!
He swapped international rugby for American football back in 2018. An impressive start, but failed to make a regular season appearance. Whilst British Olympic discus thrower Lawrence Okoye spent time with a number of franchises, but also never appeared in the NFL. Rees-Zammit will be joining the very best there is. The Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. But there is just a short time to learn the skills that others have spent a lifetime perfecting. Almost 50% of those selected for this next stage won't ultimately make the playing squad. But for Rees-Zammit, halfway around the world, it seems he is at least halfway there. Adam Wilde, BBC News.
Now, how some animals are adapting to climate change has been caught on film for the first time. The changes in behaviour were reported by naturalists who spent 5 years watching how the world's mammals were coping with rapidly changing habitats for a new TV series from Sir David Attenborough. Esme Stallard reports.
There are more than 6,000 species of mammals on Earth. And as our world changes, so must they.
This latest Attenborough series captures new mammal behaviours on film for the first time as they adapt to a world dominated by the most successful mammal of all, us.
Humans have changed 3/4 of the Earth's surface. We're changing the world in so many different ways, and animals are having to adapt in real time. It's essentially evolution in action.
We see otters navigating the busy streets of Singapore, polar bears filmed for the first time hunting reindeers inland as the sea ice rapidly melts, and howler monkeys mistaking live electrical wires for tree branches. There are some sad realities in this series, but also some successes.
He picks them off one by one.
Pig-tailed macaques in Malaysia have found a way to survive in a new habitat.
They've started coming into palm oil plantations, which were apparently devoid of life. But these palm oil plantations have been completely overrun by rats. And these pigtail macaques were predominantly vegetarian. Now they're adapting to coming into these plantations and starting to eat rats. They're becoming carnivorous. It shows you what sort of pressure these animals are under. They're having to do such extreme behavioural changes.
Recent advances in camera technology means new nighttime sequences could be captured. In one episode, we see the nocturnal life of a fennec fox filmed entirely by moonlight.
Those enormous ears are so sensitive they can even hear the movements of prey hiding underground.
The series is a celebration of mammals, how remarkable they are, how adaptable they are. But I suppose the message behind it is that we are mammals ourselves, so let's find a way to share this planet with all the mammals.
And like all Attenborough series, it provides us with some inspiration of how we can protect these species. Esme Stallard, BBC News.
Time for a look at the weather now with Louise Lear. Hi, Louise.
Thanks, Rita. Hello. It's been pretty challenging, the weather for the Easter getaway, hasn't it? Last few days has been very wet, very windy at times. We've also seen some snow, some hail, some thunder as well. But for the next few days, things will quieten down for most of us. There will be a few exceptions, but hopefully you'll be able to get out and enjoy some sunshine. So yes, for our Easter weekend, it looks likely that there's going to be a little bit more sun, fewer showers, and as a result, a degree or so warmer. But there will be some rain developing down to the south later on Easter Monday. So let's take a look at what's happening then across Saturday. We've got that low pressure drifting out to the west, the isobars opening up. There'll be a lot of dry weather to start the day on Saturday. Little more cloud down towards East Anglia and a few isolated showers, and some sharper showers developing through Northern Ireland and Scotland as we go through the day. But on the whole, with a little more sunshine coming through, temperatures are likely to peak at 15 degrees, and that should feel quite pleasant, particularly in comparison to the last few days. Now through the night, though, with those clearer skies, the temperatures will fall away, and in Scotland and northeast England we're going to see low single figures, touch of frost possible. We spring forward into British summertime, but gardeners and growers take note that that frost could play havoc with your tender spring plants. Now on Sunday there will still be a lot of dry weather around, but we just need to keep an eye on the potential for a few scattered showers to develop across East Anglia and into the Midlands. We'll keep you posted on developments of that. Not quite as warm, but nevertheless still a pleasant day. The best of the sunshine in Western Scotland. Here we'll see highs of 15 degrees. And then we start to see the change on Monday. Timing of this front's a little bit quicker and it's moving further north. Best of the dry weather in Scotland, wet elsewhere. Rita.
Thank you very much, Louise. And that is tonight's BBC News at 10. Now on BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Good night.
Good evening, I'm Assad Ahmed.